Hello and welcome back. This is Night Flight. I'm Judith Kwoba and I'm very happy to have Jeanice Barcelo with us. She is an activist, an author. She has written many books. I will link them all below. And she has done a lot of work in the field of geoengineering, EMFs, radiation, what have you. So I'm very happy that she is here, that she is sharing her insights with us and how we can protect ourselves. Jeanice, welcome to Night Flight.
Thank you so much. I just want to clarify that the bulk of my work has been around birth trauma and exposing the medical establishment for the harm that it's causing to children. And that has taken me deep into the topic of radiation because ultrasound is radiation. And I've just completed my second book on the topic of the dangers of prenatal ultrasound and other technologies that use non-ionizing radiation. So it brought me very deep into this issue that we're now coming head to head with in our society. So I thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about what I've learned.
Yeah. So in other words, we get radiated right from the get-go when we are still in the womb.
Yeah. We're at a point right now that most children being conceived today are conceived with irradiated sperm and egg because their parents are chronically exposed to radiation through their wireless devices. So all the Wi-Fi routers, cell phones, cordless phones, smart meters, all of these things are pumping massive amounts of radiation into people's homes. And that does not include all the cell towers, all the microwave transmitters, antennas, boosters, satellites, all these things that are going up all over buildings everywhere. That's putting a massive weight of radiation into our environment, and all living things are being exposed now because of what the creatures responsible for this, because of what they're doing. So most of this is completely not necessary, as we know. I think anybody in their right mind can look at the cell towers and quickly discern that this is weaponry that's being rolled out. And it's being rolled out in a commercial fashion instead of a military declaration of war. They're approaching it differently from a commercial perspective and trying to convince people that we want this and we need this and that this is going to benefit us when nothing could be further from the truth. And of course, the medical establishment itself is primarily responsible for most of the exposure to radiation for mankind, since all of their technologies are utilizing either ionizing or non-ionizing radiation. They are responsible for massive exposure to humans. And then the telecom industry came in, and they're running a close second right now for who's going to turn out to be the #1 killer of humans and other life forms.
Yeah. And what exactly happens when a baby gets an ultrasound checkup?
Well, ultrasound, what's in that transducer that they put on the mother's belly are actually crystals that are being electrocuted. So this is how they generate ultrasound, is they put alternating currents on crystals. And the crystals, when they're hit with these electrical currents, begin to morph and deform and expand and contract, and at the rate of millions and billions of times per second. And as they're morphing and deforming, they push and pull the air around them, creating an acoustic effect, okay? And that's what's called ultrasound. It's the crystals screaming. And what's happening inside the crystals is that there's atoms inside the crystals that have electrons spinning around a nucleus. And as the crystals are morphing and deforming, the electrons are knocked out of their orbits. Okay, so this causes an electrical imbalance in the crystals, and the crystals put out an inverted charge called piezoelectricity that the scientists harness. And the crystals, the atoms also struggle to try to put themselves back together. They engage in a frantic effort to restore themselves to their natural balanced state. And in their effort, they emit what's called artificial radiation. That's also being harnessed by people that I consider quite mad. They're quite insane. And that radiation is then recycled through various radiation emitting devices from which it branches out to create stress and trauma on anything that it comes into contact with. So this is what's going on inside the transducer, okay? And what's coming out of the transducer, in addition to the image, which anybody also in their right mind can clearly see that this is like an X-ray. Okay, there might be, you know, the difference between ionizing and non-ionizing radiation is basically, with ionizing radiation, the electrons get knocked out of the atom entirely. Whereas with non-ionizing, the electrons get knocked out of their orbits. But either way, the electrical balance of the atom, of the crystals, is completely morphed and deformed and destroyed in many cases. And in the case of ultrasound, we have to understand that our bodies are crystalline. So our bones are crystalline, for example. All of the fluids in our body are crystalline in nature. The cerebral spinal fluid, the placental fluid, amniotic sac, all the water, all of these things are crystalline in nature, the blood, which means that what is happening to those crystals is also going on inside of our bodies. Okay, our cells are morphing and deforming at the rate of millions and billions of times per second every time we come in contact with an ultrasound transducer. And the bones in particular absorb radiation heat. Okay, so this is a very important point because the fetal skull, the brain is encased in bone. And the brain matter closest to the skull bone is also heating up, which is contributing to the myriad brain abnormalities we are seeing in children today. So we're seeing, not just with autism, but we're seeing things like microcephaly and macrocephaly and various disorders like Treacher-Collins syndrome, where all of the bones in the face and the head are deformed. All right, this is radiation damage that the medical establishment is not calling it that. They're not going to tell people what they're doing, but this is what they're doing. They are irradiating our developing babies, and they know it. I'm not saying every medical doctor has an understanding of the danger, but what I am saying is that the people who've created this technology and who are in charge of the medical establishment know exactly what they are doing to our babies. And as with all forms of radiation, the genetic damage is extreme. So we have ultrasound causing single and double strand breaks in the DNA fractures, chromosomal aberrations, even instances where there's a complete erasure of DNA information. It's completely wiped out. So the genetic damage is extreme. And when it's happening in early prenatal life and cells are multiplying they're replicating themselves. When you've got a cell that's DNA damaged, this child may appear normal at birth, all right, but it's carrying genetic issues that are going to be showing up with the next birth if the child can reproduce. Okay, and the fact is, birth rates amongst children that have been exposed to ultrasound are lower than those who have not. And we're at a critical time right now. Ultrasound stops sperm production. And we have a 60% drop in the male sperm count since 1970, which is when ultrasound was introduced. This is when it was mainstreamed in obstetrics, okay? A 60% drop in 50 years in the male sperm count in response to being exposed to technologies that are, well, ultrasound completely stops sperm production. For a minimum of 6 months, you expose the adult male scrotum to 2 15-minute blasts, and you have a minimum of 6 months infertility, and the infertility can be permanent. And of course, the quality of the sperm, if there's any afterward, is also going to be in question because ultrasound is causing genetic damage.
So, and then, I mean, I see so many males carrying their cell phones in their pants.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I guess that is not helpful with fertility either.
This is going to increase the issue with fertility because ultrasound, cell phones, it's the same thing with all forms of artificial radiation. This is a life-destroying energy. It comes from the destruction of matter. That's how it's created, through the destruction of atoms. Atoms are the building blocks of manifest reality. So when you're harnessing an energy that's based on the destruction of matter, whatever it touches is going to be harmed. Okay, so if you're carrying this weapon of mass destruction in your pocket, yes, your sperm are going to be negatively influenced. If you are one of the many people that has been exposed to ultrasound in the womb, you've already taken a hit. If you are a child, the product of parents that are using cell phones or Wi-Fi laptops or any one of a number of technologies that could damage DNA and our reproductive organs, then this child is going to have some issues when it comes of reproductive age. And I'll share something else that's very important for people to understand. I don't know about Germany, but in the US, Canada, and the UK, they're using the 2.4 gigahertz frequency in these technologies, which is 2.4 billion hertz. That frequency is well documented to cause infertility, complete sterility by the third generation that's been exposed. So in animals, when you chronically expose animals to this particular frequency by the third generation, there will be complete sterility. And we are approaching that at this time. We are approaching the third generation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that would answer the question how they are going about the depopulation agenda.
That's part of it. And right now it's escalating because with the rollout of, I don't know how it is where you live, but where I live, there are cell towers at least every half a mile, in addition to the transmitters and the boosters and the satellites every few hundred feet. The level, when I walk around, I have a meter that I take with me where I go. And you cannot bring this meter out of a very high setting on Long Island. There's a tremendous amount of radiation where I live. And it's going to escalate with the rollout of 5G. Okay, so now they're putting it up to a much faster kill setting because people are going to get sick from this. And there's various ways that microwave illness can show up. And people may not recognize that what they're experiencing is microwave illness, and they need to find themselves a place to live where they're not being irradiated and get themselves off their Wi-Fi, get rid of the cordless phones, get rid of those cell phones. I mean, unless you are willing to hook up your cell phone to an Ethernet cable, you should not be exposing yourself and your children to these energies because they're extremely harmful. And there are ways that you can, I'm talking to you from an Ethernet connected laptop. As you could see from my meter, there's a green here, which says that there's something here that shouldn't be here, because there should be nothing at all on this meter. But there's something here, but that's coming from outside my home. It's coming from the towers, right? Inside my home, there's no more cordless phones. There's no more Wi-Fi router. There's no cell phones. Okay, we're not going to have that anymore.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, in my case, I did get sick.
Okay. Yeah, I don't carry a cell phone either. I totally refuse to carry that around. I don't even own one.
Yes.
And but how is it that some people are affected so dramatically and others seem to go through this as if nothing is happening?
There's several ways I could answer that question, but that's because I don't have a definitive answer on what makes people different in terms of the way that their biology responds. I can tell you my intuitive sense of what's going on, okay? Number one is that there's certain people that are more acclimated to living in a Luciferian matrix than others. These frequencies are 100% Luciferian. They are life-destroying. And there's simply beings here who are more acclimated to living in that energy field than others. Okay, that's number one. Number two, there are those who have been extremely traumatized. Their nervous system has already been compromised through the trauma that they've experienced throughout their life. These are the people we'll often find are the most sensitive to these frequencies because the frequencies are attacking the nervous system along with every organ and cell of the body. The nervous system is electrical. All of the signals going back and forth from the brain to the body and from our creator to us, this is all electrical energy that's being zapped by this interfering frequency. So when you've already had a compromised nervous system through trauma, maybe PTSD, whatever, this could really affect people badly, okay? There's other things in terms of how much exposure people have had. So a lot of people get thrown over the edge when a smart meter is installed on their home. They're perfectly fine with the Wi-Fi router and the cell phone, chronic exposure. But when that smart meter is put on their house, they're thrown over the edge into microwave illness or electrohypersensitivity, which is even worse. Electrohypersensitivity, those people can't even be around any electrical devices at all without becoming extremely sick. There's levels of this, of how sick people can become.
So in other words, it has something to do with saturation?
I do think it has to do with how much we've been exposed to, how much trauma we've had in our lives, okay? And how much we are acclimated to living in a satanic matrix and making that choice, whether consciously or not, that that's where we want to live. Okay, others are making the choice, I don't want any part of this. I want to be done with this matrix. I want it removed from my reality 100%. I want no part of it. And there's people like me, and a growing number that want no part of any of this, you know. So these are the ones who are going to have a tough time. You know, we're not willing to coexist with Luciferianism or Satanism. That's how I feel. I want it gone from my
Yeah, I think a lot of people want to see it gone.
A lot of people are participating in it, and they don't realize it. You know, I mean, if you're watching something as basic as watching television, puts you into that matrix. You're watching satanic images constantly, and therefore you are helping to bring those images into form by giving your attention to these images and to these thought forms that are being generated by the dark side.
Yeah. You already mentioned cordless phones. I guess microwave ovens and cell phones, that is quite obvious, but cordless phones, I think that is something where not many people think about that could be problematic. And also baby monitors.
Yeah, baby monitors are off the charts in terms of the radiation, the wireless baby monitors, and the same thing with wireless cordless phones, okay? When you go near a cordless phone base with this meter, this is a very good meter, the reading is in the red, it's in the top. It's extreme danger. As soon as you unplug the phone, it goes back to green. And so cordless phones are very dangerous. They're extremely high levels of radiation, and you're exposed 24/7 if you leave that thing plugged in. And it's communicating with any other phone in your house, right? So there's signals all day. The same thing with the cell phones. There's pulsing going on as your cell phone looks for a tower to connect to. And the pulses are extremely disruptive. And baby monitors are very high. I could show you a graph. I don't know if I could, can I share my screen with you now? Let me first bring up the graph before I share my screen with you. All right. Let me go ahead and share. Let me go ahead here and go full screen. Can you see that?
Yes, I see that.
Okay, so if you look to the right, that's the baby monitor.
Wow.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the interesting thing is I just told you that a cordless phone, which is this, puts this into the red.
Mm-hmm.
So what are we talking about here with the baby monitor? Okay, it's extreme danger being placed next to our children. And just so you know, it's not just one graph that I picked up out of nowhere. This is repeatedly found over and over again with the baby monitors.
Oh, I see Dr. Dietrich Klinghardt, at least somebody with a PhD is speaking out.
What does he say? The baby monitors will destroy the baby's brain early on. He also says the 2.4 gigahertz frequency is the worst frequency in the entire spectrum. It's the most destructive frequency. They know this. This is not an accident. We have children right now. Let me go ahead and stop the share. We have children right now who, if they're exposed to, they call it screen time. They'll never say the word radiation. If they're exposed to screens for 7 hours a day, they're developing a form of brain damage. In other words, there's a thinning of the cortex. A thinning of the cortex is what happens to Alzheimer's patients. And we have an issue right now with young adults developing what's called digital dementia. They're losing their mind.
Have a term like that?
Look it up. It's in my book. I just put, my book is ready. It's just going to be released in paperback within a week or two. Okay, people are pre-ordering the book right now. This is all in my book, which is called The Dark Side of Prenatal Ultrasound and the Dangers of Non-Ionizing Radiation. But this means that before they're 30, they're going to have dementia or Alzheimer's. This is what we're doing to our children. Not only are they exposed to the baby monitors and the Wi-Fi routers and the cell phones and the cordless phones, but then you send them to a school with Wi-Fi.
Yeah, and they are playing early on with tablets and...
Yes. And some of the schools have, cell towers right outside the school. We just had a situation here in the United States, in California, where they had a single WiMAX transmitter. These are very powerful transmitters on school property. All right, 4 children out of 300 diagnosed with cancer, deadly forms of cancer. 4 teachers in the same school. And the parents are up in arms. This is happening all over the world. Where cell towers are close by, there's clusters, there's cancer clusters. But of course, we are being exposed to massive amounts of radiation, and we must say no. Okay, we must take a look at the InPower movement. InPowerMovement.com. Okay, get on this. Start filing notices of liability against the people in your country who are responsible for this rollout. In the United States, it's the Federal Communications Commission. In the UK, it's Ofcom. Okay, we want to hold the people responsible at these organizations liable for what they're doing. And that's a liability that exists not just here on earth, but we need to make a spiritual proclamation, okay, that we are aware of what you're trying to do to us. We do not consent, and you are going to be held responsible in this world and the next and the next and the next. We're not letting you off the hook, okay, because they think if they tell us what they're going to do and we don't say no, they will not have any spiritual accountability at all. That's what they believe. That's
I know that they think it works like that, but that is so screwed up.
Well, maybe it's not screwed up, okay? Maybe it's serious. Maybe it is absolutely a fact that we must stand up and say no. We do not consent. And we're willing to go through the InPower process to make sure that they know that we know and that we're holding them liable. This is a spiritual process of stepping into our power. And in fact, also, I really think it's a process in which we have to determine that we're no longer willing to coexist with these creatures, that they have to be expelled from the earth permanently. This doesn't require any violence. It requires an intention on the part of mankind to be absolutely rid of this energy from our world. We make excuses, we say, oh, there's a balance between good and evil. Evil brings balance. You know, we wouldn't know how to experience the good if we didn't have evil. Well, this is complete nonsense. This is utter bullshit.
Yeah, it's the energy that is in it. I mean, you can't tell me that you cannot feel the difference in the energy, let's say, between hate and joy.
Yes. And we should be mature enough to be able to make the choice to say, no, I'm not willing to coexist with you. Get out of my reality. Be gone. Be gone.
And non-compliance.
Non-compliance. So, you know, it's a little tricky with non-compliance when you have a cell tower next to your house. You know, you have to file the papers, you got to do the in-power process, but first you need to get yourself to safety. You need to get you and your children to safety. There's a lot of people making a mistake right now where they have cell towers next to their homes and they're staying. They're leaving themselves and their children in that environment, which is very dangerous. And I know there's a lot of circumstances and finances and all kinds of things that hold people back, but it's critical to get your body and the bodies of your children to safety. And then you'll have the energy to go through the in-power process to fight these people.
Yeah, in terms of the cell tower, I agree. But let's say millions of people were to throw away their cell phones tomorrow.
That would be excellent. There's a statement. Before you throw them out, smash them up. Make sure you remove whatever wireless thing is in there so they don't continue transmitting. You know, let's do our part to clean this up. But yes, that would be a major thing for people to just turn around and walk away from this and say, no more. I'm not participating in this. I'm not going to endanger my children's lives. I'm not going to endanger the lives of all living things because it's convenient for me or because I like to get on the internet with my cell phone. Go back to your house and use a wired computer. It's so easy to do. It's so easy to do. To simply hook it up to an Ethernet cable where you're not using wireless anymore. You'll have a much stronger connection. You don't need to be, you know, at your phone 24/7, you know, like, I mean, it's a spiritual sickness.
Yes, it is. Sometimes, it does not happen very often, but when I use public transport, I'm sometimes the only person in that entire bus that is not staring at her phone.
Yes. Of course, people like me who have developed microwave illness, I couldn't even get on a bus without becoming extremely ill. I can't use public transportation. I can't use public facilities. If I go to the health food store to get my food, I got to get in and out of there 15, 20 minutes, and I start to feel sick because they have so much wireless radiation with everybody with their phones, with all their wireless cashiers and everything, you know, like everything's run by wireless technologies now. We're going down the wrong path. It's a dead end, literally. It is a genocidal path, and we're on it. And if we don't get off this train, we're headed for extinction. That's a fact.
And we are paying for it.
We're paying for it.
Yeah. You know what I'm thinking right now? The new appliances, they are all smart. You can have smart toilets, smart TVs, we already know that, but a smart stove, a smart refrigerator, everything. So,
in your car. So my suggestion to people is that you never ever bring a smart device into your house, that you look for used. If you need something to replace an old unit, look for something used that is not smart, because you can also look for EMF safe technologies. You can type that in, EMF safe refrigerator, EMF safe stove. You know, you can look for propane run technologies that are not even electrical. You know, there's many options that we have. We do not have to become part of this. This is a choice. But we have to be vigilant because, you know, we brought in, for example, small smoke detectors. Who knew that these things were ultrasonic? I mean, it took me 3 nights of seeing these pulses on my meter, and I'm going, what the hell is going on? And then I read something, and I was like, oh my God, it's the smoke detectors. I had to go uninstall all the detectors, go get battery-operated smoke detectors. It's insidious. All of this ultrasonic technology is also emitting radiation pulses. So it's really insidious, and we have to be hypervigilant, which is very stressful. To have to be this vigilant to the level of threat that exists in our society today, you know, it's unbelievable what we're dealing with. And I can't imagine, I don't have any living children, but I'm stressed out just trying to protect my cat. You know, I can't imagine what parents are going through to try to protect their children. Parents who are aware. Most parents, unfortunately, do not have a clue. And their children are going to pay the price for their ignorance. It's very important for people to understand this. Because literally our bloodlines, the survival of our bloodlines depends on our awareness of this issue and taking steps to correct at the very least what's in our home. Make sure we don't buy a vehicle that has these technologies in it. Get an older vehicle. You know, I could show you, let me go ahead and show you my screen again. So you could see what's going on in a car. Hold on, let me bring up the right slide for you. Because you're gonna, I mean, it's just, let me share the screen. Truly is unbelievable. I'm gonna go, let me go full screen. Okay?
Yeah.
Hello? Hello? Can you believe this?
And that is all microwave.
Yes, it is. This is
Wow.
all microwave. I'm going to call it what it is. It's weaponry.
Yeah. Wow, wow, wow.
This is what our babies, you know, are surrounded by. So our children are going to pay the highest price. We may not care enough about ourselves to make changes, but if you've got children and you want them to have a healthy life and you want them to be able to have healthy children, you need to move on this now. The genetic damage is already an issue.
I have heard this a couple of times, so I'm going to ask you, what would you tell a person that is saying, oh, you know what, then we adopt to it and that's it?
You're going to adapt to it by becoming extinct. Your bloodlines are going to become extinct. And if you're okay with that, I'm okay with that. You know, that's up to you. It's really up to you. If you don't mind condemning your children to sterility, to perhaps having children with genetic damage, you know, the pain of giving birth to a genetically deformed child, and to see that genetic damage get passed on generation after generation. If you're okay with that, watching your children suffer and your grandchildren suffer, well, then maybe, you know, if you're okay with that, maybe your bloodline should come to an end. Because
yeah, I guess what those people mean is that our bodies will adapt and they will come to a point where they do not have any issue with it, but I highly doubt that.
There's no way that our bodies can adapt to this, because this is an energy, as I said, that is based on the destruction of matter.
Mm.
It will destroy your cells. You will develop some form of microwave illness. That would be my guess at some point. Tinnitus, you might start with ringing in the ears, insomnia, headaches, pressure in the head, joint pain, muscle pain. You may develop skin rashes. You may develop bleeding noses. Your children may develop bleeding noses. You may feel dizziness, nausea, extreme weakness, fatigue, right? These are all symptoms of microwave illness. You may get the flu, and it may be very serious, and you may get it several times in 1 year. This is not the flu. This is microwave illness. They have exactly the same symptoms. And in fact, the flu is really not a viral infection. It's an electrically induced disease.
So before electricity, we didn't have flus?
There's a really good book called The Invisible Rainbow by Arthur Furstenberg. He makes a very strong case for the fact that influenza did not exist until the introduction of man-made electricity. And that, yes, indeed, it is an electrically induced disease, as is diabetes and cardiac problems. That's the other thing. If you've got cardiac disturbances, this is definitely connected to your exposure to these frequencies, because they're totally sending the electrical signaling that controls your heart rate into chaos. We have in Canada 2 10-year-old children drop dead from cardiac arrest in a school with Wi-Fi, and 2 more collapsed from cardiac arrest, but were revived. This is not normal. Children are dying.
Yeah, but heart problems, and I mean, 4 in one school, that is.
It's very well documented. The cardiac abnormalities, they've known about this since the 1940s at least, that microwave frequencies and ultrasonic frequencies cause cardiac abnormalities and can stop your heart cold. If they use the right frequency, they can stop your heart cold. All right. The 2.4 gigahertz frequency is extremely well documented to cause cardiac abnormalities and disturbances.
Yeah, I heard that they have the capability to stop your heart while you are walking on the street. My question is, would they need something to hook on that frequency? Let's say they target your cell phone and then send the frequency, or is that no longer needed?
Well, I think that's a big help to them.
Okay, yeah.
Because they can find you. They can locate you with your phone or your car or your GPS device or whatever technologies, whatever smart technologies you have. This is artificial intelligence that can keep a tab on you and where you are and what you do, and provide them with immediate access. Again, there's people who don't mind. And it's likely that their bloodlines will come to an end.
So
we have to make a choice.
Yeah.
And the time is now, because we're in trouble. Our children are in trouble.
Do you think that We can turn it around, or
Yeah.
is it, yeah?
I mean, my prediction is that within the next 10 years, the telecom industry is going to completely collapse. It's going to be buried in lawsuits for all the sickness that has unfolded, and not just the telecom industry. The more people that participate in the Empower movement, the more we're going to be holding our government representatives accountable for what they've allowed to happen to us. In the United States, there's a great deal of evil, a great deal of Zionist control of the American Congress. And those creatures it's time for them to be held accountable for what they've done to our country, to Germany, to countries across Europe. It's the same cult that's done all this damage. And they will be held accountable and liable. But it's important for, enough of us to awaken and to move on this. I really, really recommend the Empower Movement. Go to empowermovement.com, read the documents, watch the videos, get involved, take action, because the process itself is a spiritual awakening. It really is. And it's right now like a steamroller effect. It's moving very quickly. From the last interview I saw with Cal Washington, who's the head of the movement, it's moving very quickly now. So there's a speed with which the awakening is unfolding. And this is necessary in order to turn this around. But I do think many people have already taken a hit. Many bloodlines have already taken a hit. And if they do not get on a spiritual path, it's not looking good for them. You're going to need the Creator's help here to overcome this. You're going to need to develop, and I'm not talking about religion. I'm talking about a deep relationship with creation and with the real Creator, with the loving force, all right, that created everything that's good and beautiful in our world. We have to develop a relationship with this energy in order to get through this, because it's big. It's pretty big. I don't know how to say it, without terrifying people, but it's very serious. So we're going to need God's help.
It is terrifying. I mean, if you let it sink in, and well, buy a meter and go around your house and check any devices that you have, and then at least make a informed decision, because many of these things we do not really need.
We don't need any of it.
No.
We do not need any of it. Let me go ahead and share my screen with you again so I can show people. So you can get this meter that I have on Amazon for $180. If you want to deal with this issue, this is the first purchase that you should make. You should get a meter so that you know what's going on in your environment, and you can make corrections based on what you see. So that's very important. I can walk people, like this is another meter. I don't want to go into the dirty electricity and the magnetic fields right now. This meter is designed to measure the 5G frequencies, called the Essentia all-wave meter. So that's a brand new meter. They've just come out that will measure the 5G frequencies. I don't have one. I don't know if it's easy to use. I do know that this one is incredibly easy to use. And if you see the meter going up into the red, you know, you know, you don't need to know that it's above 8 gigahertz, okay? You know that something serious is going on. So this meter is pretty sufficient. Okay, so get a meter, hook yourself up to some cordless telephones. I mean, you can get these things for 25 bucks on Amazon. These are corded telephones. You don't need cordless telephones. All right, if you have phone jacks in your house, right now you have your cordless telephone plugged into a phone jack. Unplug that thing and plug in a corded phone. And do the same thing in every room of your house. Get rid of the cordless phones. You know, getting off of Wi-Fi means you want to get Ethernet cables. I recommend shielded cables to protect you from dirty electricity. Dirty electricity is the result of having a grid. In Europe, the grid is built to hold 50 hertz. Right now, they're running millions and billions of hertz through that grid to power the smart meters and the Wi-Fi routers and all the technologies, all of our smart technologies. So the grid is pumping out massive dirty electricity that's making people sick. So try to protect yourself from dirty electricity by getting shielded cables. Okay. I wish I could show you this in person. But since I'm attached to a Ethernet cable, I can't bring my computer around the house. These are called power line adapters. And as you can see, they're Ethernet enabled. So if you get this, they come in a pair. All right. You would plug one of these devices into the wall near your cable modem. If you get your internet through a cable company, plug it into the wall near your cable modem, run the Ethernet cable through the bottom, and put that Ethernet cable into the cable modem itself. What that does is it runs the Ethernet connection through all the electrical wiring of your house. Then you can take the other device, plug it into any electrical outlet of your house, put an Ethernet cable in there and plug the other end into your computer. And you have an Ethernet connected computer in any room of your house. And you don't need to run the cables through the whole house. So this is a good option. It's easier to show you, but I can't show you. But if you don't want one,
I get the idea.
good. Okay. If you have more than one device that you want to connect to an Ethernet port, all right, you would get your Ethernet cable, plug it into your cable modem, plug the other end into this, and then you can plug however many devices. You know, you can get 5 ports, 7 ports, 9 ports, however many you want. This is called an Ethernet splitter. All right, so these are some of the things that can get you started. Before you get these things, if you can't get them immediately, simply turn off your cell phones at night. Unplug your cordless phones every night. All right.
Yeah, I switch everything off every night.
Turn off your Wi-Fi router every night. And at least try to sleep in a field that's not irradiated. The only way to tell is with a meter. And the reason I'm suggesting this is because sleep is when we repair. It's when we can repair some of the radiation damage. If we're not sleeping in a clean environment, there will be no chance for the body to repair the damage. And it will accumulate. And it will take you down. At some point, you're going to go down, and your kids are going to go down, probably sooner than you do. So you want to make sure, at the very least, that you're sleeping in a clean environment and that your children are not being irradiated through the night. And this is very important because I know activists, whose kids are being chronically exposed because of where they live. And this is not a good choice. You've got to move. If you're near a tower, you've got to move. You've got to get your kids to safety. Or the other option, if you're going to dig your heels in deeper, there's a couple of options. You can sleep in a shielded canopy that shields you from the radiation, or put your children. These are not cheap. They're, $1,500 or so.
Wow.
Or you've got to shield your bedrooms with this special shielding paint. And that's
would that also work with the 5G? That paint?
You'd have to ask the people who are selling the paint what level of frequencies can be blocked, because the 5G frequencies are scheduled to go as high as 100 gigahertz. That's 100 billion hertz.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got some really wicked stuff going on, because at 60 gigahertz, this is when the oxygen molecules are going to be affected, and we're not going to be able to breathe. They're going to slowly suffocate us with the 60 gigahertz, not just us, all living things. This is deadly stuff. It really is, and that's why we need to deal with it. We can't just be compliant, acquiescing, minding our own business, pretending it's not there. We're under attack. This is the most wicked attack that I could have that I could have ever imagined they would conjure into existence. But they have done it. And we've got to stop them. It's up to us. God works through us. God's not in a body. We are. We are here to effectuate taking this planet back and to exercising our dominion over this earth that was given to us as our birthright. That requires us to get on the ball, to take a stand, to intend to rid the earth of these creatures permanently. Every time one of them dies, we have to slam the portal shut intentionally, saying they have no permission to reincarnate here ever again. Okay, we have to make this our responsibility to get rid of them permanently, with no possibility of return.
I'm also a little bit tired of, I'm not saying God is not in control, but we cannot just sit back and let everything go down in a handbasket.
No, we cannot. And this is the problem with mankind, is we sit here and go, oh, we're so helpless. We're so weak. We're so stupid. First of all, even thinking that way is an insult to our Creator. Implying that our Creator is a bumbling idiot and doesn't know how to make an intelligent, powerful species that could have dealt with this decades ago, but chose not to, because we choose to put our power in other beings. Oh, the aliens are smarter than us. Oh, bullet. It's not correct. Oh, the aliens are more powerful than us. Oh, the aliens are coming to save us. No, they're not. Just the opposite is true. Okay, this is an alien technology. It's never meant to be on the earth. It has no business being here. It is designed to destroy us and our planet. This is a fact. And as terrifying as that may be to people, it's time to put on your big girl panties and your big boy panties and address this issue. We cannot be afraid of these creatures. And I'm not saying we shouldn't be afraid of what this is doing to us, because obviously it's very concerning. But we cannot be afraid of these creatures. We cannot kowtow to these creatures. We cannot be sitting there begging them to do the right thing. Oh, please, take this.
Throw us a little bit less.
Please, yes, yes, put that cell phone tower at least 500 feet from the school. No. Put that cell phone tower 1,000 feet from my house. No. Take the damn tower down.
Mm-hmm.
Or get the hell off my earth. You and your technology, get off, get out, get out. This is where we need to be coming from. Instead of saying, oh yes, we need the cell phone towers, we need to have better service. This is moronic and suicidal.
Yeah, I don't have a cell phone, but I used to have one and I never had any problem getting service. So that cannot be the issue for 5G.
It's not.
Of course not.
This is weaponry.
Mm-hmm.
And it's clear to see. Yeah. If people would just open their eyes, these are weapons. Even your cell phone is a weapon. It's It's a weapon of mass destruction. I see mothers with young children in one arm and their cell phone in the other. And I want to say, I wish I had copies of my book, that I could just hand them my book at the very least. But really, I want to scream at them. Don't you realize what you're doing?
No, they don't.
You realize how much you're hurting your baby. Do you realize you're ignoring your baby? You're more attached to your cell phone. You're paying more attention to your phone than your child. Please, people.
Yeah. The zombie apocalypse is already here. We don't have to wait for that.
We are in it. We are in it. We're experiencing it. We're living it. And there's one way through, only one. That way is through consciousness. Okay, if we do not align ourselves with the force of love behind creation, and we do not act in service to that beautiful force of love to put a halt to this, then there is no chance for us. But I believe enough of us exist.
Yeah, you do not need everybody on board.
No, you don't. No, you don't. And actually, the ones that are not willing, the ones that are willfully remaining ignorant, their bloodlines will come to an end. And perhaps that is as it should be. Because when we move into the new earth, we need consciousness.
Mm.
We need a willingness to align all of our actions with the force of love and to do everything that we can to fulfill the divine dream, which is based on love, which is based on bringing the energy of the good here and walking away from hospital birth, everything technological that has harmed us, traumatized our kids, disrupted bonding, okay, prevented us from experiencing human love. That includes our phones. We need to walk away, turn the other way.
You can have technology, but just a very, very different type.
And we don't need technology. The fact is, we're telepathic beings. We do not need the internet. The internet is a mirror, and it's a very primitive and dangerous when it's wireless, outpicturing of our innate capacity to communicate with each other and with other beings. So we've pretended we need cars instead of understanding our true capacity to teleport, you know. We don't even, when I say the word, people are like, we can't do that. But in fact, we can. We've lost even our basic capacity to regulate our body temperature, like all other creatures on the earth can, because we're in artificial environments. We're in artificial environments 24/7 that have caused us to lose all of our capacities that are innate, that the Creator handed us from the very beginning, but that we've chosen to move away from. Most of us haven't made the choice. We're born into this, you know, we're born into this technological matrix, which has been superimposed over God's world. But it's a totally unnecessary, invasive, harmful matrix. It's not beneficial.
Yeah. I remember when I grew up, the first couple of years at home, we didn't even have a telephone.
Right.
But now the kids come in and they think that is normal, that there are 5 cell phones in the house.
Yeah. And it's totally satanic. It's extremely dangerous. I do think it's a process. You know, I was very sick, and it took me a couple of months to figure out how to make all the changes in my home and to get everybody in the house to agree. It's a big deal. You know, so it's going to be a process for us to move back toward our pristine origins. It may take a while. It may take a generation, 2 generations, 3 generations for us to fully be restored in the pristine way of life. But we can certainly do it. And we just need to be moving toward that, toward returning to God's world. You know, returning to the pristine order. That has to be in our heart. I recommend people read the Ringing Cedars books. Okay, ringing like a bell, cedars like the trees. Go to ringingcedars.com and see if those books resonate with you. And only get them at ringingcedars.com, because there's an edition 3, translated by Marion Schwartz. It's a total corrupted edition, so you don't want to get edition 3. You want to go to ringingcedars.com and get edition 1 or 2 of the books. And these books are beautiful in terms of really demonstrating the power that humanity has, a beautiful path that we can take, you know, to restore our earth and ourselves, and remind us of what humanity is capable of in its pristine state. These books make it so very clear, and they're so kind. You know, they're presented in such a loving and beautiful way that I think many, many people will benefit from reading these books.
Yeah. Wow, that was very, I know your time is very limited and I will not keep you any longer. I'm so happy that you came, because I know you are in the process of moving away.
Yeah.
So we did this on short notice. Thank you so much for that. And I will certainly link everything below where people can find your work. Tell your website.
My website is birth, BIRTH, of a new earth, birthofanewearth.com. I also have a website called radiationdangers with an S.com. I've I'm about to publish my book. People are pre-ordering my book, The Dark Side of Prenatal Ultrasound, right now, which you can find on birthofanewearth.com, information about that. And my first book has been available for a couple of years about birth trauma, if that interests you. It's also on my website. And I'm not sure what else I could say, but check out my website and you'll find everything there. Judith, thank you. Thank you for caring enough about this topic to invite me to speak about it, and for caring about the future of Earth's children. Because really that's what this is about.
Yeah. And I mean, I live here as well, and I would like to keep it nice and clean and safe for everybody, for the animals, for the humans. Yeah. So we have to do something and rise up to the occasion.
I'm right there with you, sister.
Okay, thank you so much for coming. Guys, this was it. This was Night Flight for today. Take good care of yourself, make your lives better, and rise up to the occasion. Bye-bye.
Bye for now.